नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। So welcome to the letter of instructions. Class, we will just recite the 11 verses of the Shakrat and then we'll continue text 2. If you don't have the printout, you can वाचुवेगं मनसः क्रोधवेगं जिह्वावेगं दर्पस्तवेगम् एतान् वेगान्यो विषयेतधीरः सर्वामपि मां पृथ्वीं सशिष्यात् अत्याहार प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति उत्साहान्निश्चया धैर्यात् तत्तः कर्म प्रवर्तनात् संगतानां सतो वृत्ते षड्भिर्भक्तिः प्रसीदति यदाति प्रतिगृह्णाति गुह्यमाख्याति पृच्छति भुङ्क्ते योजयते चैव षड्विधं प्रीतिलक्षणम् कृष्णेति यस्य गीतं मनसा क्रियेत दीक्षास्ति चेत् प्रणतविश्वचन्तमीशम् शुश्रूषया वचनविज्ञमनन्य अन्य निन्दादिशून्यहृदयीप्सितसङ्गलभ्या दृष्टे स्वभावजनिते वपुश्च दोषे न प्राकृतं इह भक्तजनस्य पश्ये गङ्गां वसां न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्के रम्यद्रवत्वम् अपगच्छति नीरधर्मे स्यात् कृष्णावचरिताभिसिताप्यविद्या पीतोपतप्तरसनस्य नरोचिकानु यदित्वादरादिनं दृष्टा स्वाभिक्रमात् भवति तदगतमूलहन्त्रे तन्नामरूपचरिताभिसुखीर्तनातु स्मर्त्यो क्रमेण सदा मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजेत अनुरागी जनानुगामी कालं नयेत किलं नित्युपदेशसारम् वैकुण्ठाच्चरितो वरामधुपुरी तत्रार्पिरसोऽस्मान् वृन्दारण्यमुदारपाणिरमणा तत्रापि गोवर्धन राधानुष्टम्यापि गोकुलपते प्रेमामृतप्लावना कुर्यादस्य विराजितो गिरितटे सेवां विवेकः कर्मेभ्यः परितो हरे प्रियतया व्यक्तिव्ययुर्ज्ञानिनः तेभ्यो ज्ञानविमुक्तभक्ति परमां प्रेमैकनिष्ठास्ततः तेभ्यस्ता पशुपालपङ्कजदृशस्ताभ्यो विसाराधिका दृशान्तद्वद्रियं तदीयसंसितानाश्रयेत् कृति कृष्णस्योच्छये प्रणयवसति प्रेयस्य व्युत्पीतिराधा कुण्डं चास्य मुनिभिः अवितास् प्राकृत एव व्याधाय यत्प्रेष्येराप्यलम्बसुलभं किं पुनर्भक्तिभाजनं तत्प्रेमेण सकृतमे सदस्तातुराविष्करोति. So somebody has practiced memorizing verse 1, which you have already completed. Okay, you can write. Yes, Mataji. Yes. Yes, Mataji.
वाचो वेगं मनसः क्रोधवेगं जिह्वावेगम् उदरपस्थवेगम् एतान् वेगान् यो विषयेत धीर सर्वामपि मां पृथ्वीं सशिष्यः.
So, as we are reciting this verse, so you can also just memorize these verses so that you will be part of your exams. So, let's continue with our textbook discussion. Let's recite this verse together. अत्याहार प्रयासश्च प्रचल्पो नियमाग्रह क्षणसङ्गश्च लव्यश्च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. One, devotion is spoiled. One's devotional service is spoiled when one becomes too entangled in the following six activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Atyahara. Overindulging for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Prayas. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subjects. Prajalpa. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Niyamagrha, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Jana Sanghas, and being greedy for mundane achievements. Six things. So we began the discussion of this verse in the last class. Prabhupada, why does he speak about simple living and high thinking? What is the reason he begins his purport with simple living and high thinking? What is the reason? Did you figure that out? What is the reason? Prabhupada starts suddenly the you know human life is meant for simple living and high thinking. Why does Prabhupada begin with that discussion? What is the reason? Yes, Prabhuji.
If we follow the life of simple living and healthy, then we will able to follow these words. Without this, we cannot follow these words.
Specifically, among the six items, which item? Which item?
Atyahara.
Atyahara is Atyahara. Is connected to Atyahara. So we mentioned the text was Bhakti Pratikul Shad. I hope you are able to get the flow within the Uddeshamrit verses. First of all, first verse is Madhyamadhikari, self-control Madhyamadhikari. And only he is practicing what? The symptom of Sharanagati. Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya. Of course, those who are candidates, sadhakas who are endeavoring also, to control the Vegas. They also, but generally, those who are Madhyamadhikaris, they understand these six parts. And that's why they're very careful not to fall victim to these six parts. So that's why as a sadhana, we should study Upadeshamrit every year. So that's what I mentioned. And then we went into the concept of Atyahar. Atihar, although the principal meaning is overeating or over collecting, but Rupa Goswami has already spoken about it in Jiva Vegam and Udara Vegam. Then why would he repeat? In this essential 11 instructions, why would he repeat? There is no question of repeating, 11 verses because he used to give the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness, right from Abhideya to Prayojan. So why would he repeat? So what is the reason? The reason is Atyahara also means what? What does Atyahara mean? Yes, Mataji. Over collecting things, but what is the deep meaning of Atyahara? That is love or lovely. I hope we were there in the last class. Right? Ati ahar. Ati ahar. Ahar refers to what now? Oh, ahar refers to form. Ahar means what? Food. Food for what now?
Yeah.
Food for the senses. So that is a deeper meaning here. Okay? Ahar means also to enjoy the senses. So that is the meaning of Atyahar here. Although the other meaning which Prabhupada is also giving is correct, please remember. And when we study the purport deeper, we'll understand that Prabhupada is mentioning that also. Okay? So these ahar for the senses, when you do too much, then you are, fall prey to atihar. So how we spiritualize the ahars, we discussed this, right? I hope you are clear. Now the root cause of atihar is what? Why there is emptiness of the heart? Why there is emptiness of the heart?
Because there is no love for Krishna.
Yes, because there is no love for Krishna. If you have love for Krishna, then you will not do atyahar. Simple. Because that vacuum is there in the heart, you know, so that is compensated by what? Love for filling the belly, or love for filling the head with so many degrees, or filling the house with so many things, over collecting. Are you getting this? So over collecting is a gross thing, and you can see that. But subtly is over collecting on the head also. Over collecting in the belly also is a little gross. You can see that, right? Some people feel satisfaction in the heart when when their belly is satisfied. Yes, yes. So this is the root cause. Okay, so this is what we discussed, the concept of atyahar. You have to get very clear this. And I mentioned how atyahar is the root. From atyahar it leads to prayas, then prajalpa, niyamagra, janasanga, and lawli. They follow in the sequence, but atyahar can directly also lead to lawli. Okay, so like that. Okay, I hope you're able to get this point very clearly. And that's why Prabhupada, in order to counteract atyahar, he speaks about simple living, high thinking. What does simple living mean? To simply love Krishna. And high thinking means only in this kind of an environment where you're simple living, high thinking, only there you can discuss philosophy. Otherwise, philosophy doesn't go in the head, especially cosmology. People in the village, they can understand cosmology easily because they're always seeing the night sky, all the whole galaxy of planetary systems, everything. Okay. So then we went into actually the first section. We covered the first section, right? We covered the first section completely, or I don't know. We finished up till I think one paragraph or two paragraphs. Two paragraphs we finished, right? So I hope you are clear with the sections. Please mark the sections in your textbooks if you have not marked it. That human life is meant for clean living, high thinking is paragraph 1. The word Mahatma, right, is paragraph 2. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita is paragraph 3. And paragraph 4 is indeed. And paragraph 5 is the main problems confronting. Okay. So some prints might have different paragraph numberings. Please note that, because sometimes different printing editions are there, so there might be some change. Okay. So now we'll continue with this discussion on Atyahar. Yeah. So we have discussed about this. Now let's see whether the whole discussion in 5 paragraphs. Prabhupada is discussing these 5 paragraphs to build a theme about what? Atyahar. And the best way to counteract Atyahar is what? Simple living. I think. In the city life, we are what? Simply living and hardly thinking. Hardly can think because you are caught up so much. There is no mind space only. So Prabhupada speaks about simple living, high thinking, and he says that there are 3 energies. The living entity is conditioned being is caught up in which energy? The third class energy, the Bhairanga Shakti. And that is why he is what? Obliged to work. But those who are in the internal energy, they are doing their constitutional activity. What is what? That is what? Constant engagement in devotional service. So if you want to know whether how much I am under the influence of the Antaranga Shakti and or the Vairanga Shakti, what is the way? What is the way you can measure or understand?
You're constantly facing.
Yes. See whether you are constantly able to do devotional activities. The more you are able to do devotional activities, I mean core devotional activities. I mean core devotional activities means chanting, hearing, and what? Studying Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or Updesha. So like that we can understand. So Prabhupada says, he quotes this, fully engaged Mahatmas, 3 energies we saw. And we spoke about the Mahatmas. They are engaged in always satisfying the senses of the Lord. And they don't do either personal or extended sense gratification. So let's go to paragraph 3. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the word Daivi Prakritim refers to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the personality, simple personality body. The pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual Jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Krishna. That's their only engagement. This is the position of Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or a crippled minded person. So very easy to find out whether we are Mahatma or Duratma, right? Right? What is the scale by which you can understand? Only engagement is satisfaction of utility. That's it. Such mentally crippled duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency. Maha, Mahamaya. So now, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada speaks about these conditioned living entities who are put in the Vairanga Shakti, what they undergo. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya. So we are under the control of Yogamaya or Mahamaya, right? And interestingly, we are more interested in understanding Yogamaya pastimes, Krishna's Leela's pastimes, rather than Mahamaya pastimes. Yes? But who is qualified to understand Krishna Leela pastimes? We need adhikar for that, right? So there are these three kleshas, Adi Devi Klesha, Adi Bhautik Klesha, and Adhyatmika Klesha. So the living entities who are under Mahamaya, what is their business? Whose business is to subject them to the influence of the threefold miseries. We saw in the Anuvritti commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he spoke about the urges of the speech, the urges of the what? Mind. And within that there is urges of the and anger. And then the urges of the body. So if we are coming under the dictation of the urges of the body, that means we are under the influence of external potency of the Lord. So what is the symptom that we are under the influence of the external potency? We are suffering these three kleshas. Anyone here who is not suffering these three kleshas? Would like to raise your hands? I'm not raising. Constantly suffering these three kleshas. Daiva Bhutatma Hetava, the conditioned soul subject to these three miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties. So Prabhupada is quoting from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you know where this comes in Srimad Bhagavatam? It comes in the first canto, 10th chapter, verse 6, about Yudhishthira Maharaj's rule. That the citizens were not facing any miseries because of these three factors. They were not facing any miseries, but living entities in this material world faces. So these are the three kleshas. Now, Prabhupada comes to the main klesha. If you are not facing these three, but always you are going to go through this four main miseries. The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. Interestingly, the sequence is what? Birth, old age, disease, and then death. But now you have to reverse it. Birth, disease, old age, death. Generally, the principle is that only when you get old age, then you get disease. But nowadays, when you are born, you are getting disease.
And after some time, there will be no old age, birth, disease, and death.
Oh, nice realization. It's no old age. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable to the execution of consciousness? So you see how Prabhupada is building so logically and systematically his purport. He is not yet started speaking about what? Atyahara. He is speaking about how human life is meant for simple living, high thinking, and we are in the Bhairanga Shakti. And being in the Bhairanga Shakti, we are obliged to work. The Mahatmas who are in the Antaranga Shakti, they are constantly engaged in bhajan. They don't work. Right? Have you seen them work? No, they don't work. They're constantly busy in bhajan. And then the Duratmas, if you're not a Mahatma, then there's no in between. You're either a Mahatma or a Duratma. There's no in between. So the Duratmas are put under the Bhairanga Shabda. And they are suffering these miseries of these three kleshas. And the main misery is birth, death, old age, and disease. And then, because just imagine we work for what maintenance of the body. Yes or no? But the body gives us only three types of kleshas. And the body has to go through disease, death, birth, and for what we work, this is what we get in return. But Prabhupada is saying, how can one perform such a work in a way that is favorable for the execution of? Now Prabhupada is going to come to the point now, after laying the foundation. So now there is a summary of text 1 to 5. Human life is meant for simple living and high thinking. There are three energies. Those who are in the Bhairanga Shakti are forced to work. If you want to live, you have to work. And because we are in the third class energy, work to maintain our bodies. And then what we get is three kleshas and these four miseries. This is our situation. So how do we work? In a way favorable to Krishna consciousness, controlling the urges, which was already described in the first verse. Okay. Now, Atyahar and Lavlya. So now Prabhupada is going to speak about Atyahar and Lavlya. Now please note here, in many of the uh, textbooks here, I don't know, but in my textbook here, everyone requires possessions is mentioned. It is continuation of paragraph 5 itself, but that is paragraph 6. You can see here. So please mark this. If it is taken in the same paragraph, then please make a mark and note that as paragraph 6. You can see here in the database. For me also it is not taken as a separate paragraph. The first prints which were printed, they had as per this database. Later on, as the editions of the prints changed, there has been change. So please note on that. So actually, Prabhupada is beginning discussing Atyahar in paragraph 6 and 7. Okay, is it clear? Paragraph 6 and 7 is dealing with Atyahar. Sorry, Atyahar and Laulyam. I mentioned Atyahar can directly lead to what? Laulyam. So now in this verse, Prabhupada will explain how Atyahar leads to Laulyam. Okay. Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body, but one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. Please just recollect what we Prabhupada spoke in the previous paragraphs, and especially his last statement. Please recollect and try to understand. One is obliged to work, has to work for the maintenance of the body, in spite being under the Vairanga Shakti because of these three kleshas and these four problems. But how one should work? In a way that is favorable to Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada is setting up now that everyone, these basic three needs are there: roti, kapda, and makan. Food, clothing, money, and other things. So required for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary. Now, this is the principle. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, if you refer 4:21, Krishna says, Nirashira yata chittatma tektva sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilvisha. Nirashira. Nirashir means without any desire. Yata chit atma, controlling the mind and the senses. Tektva sarva parigraha, free from the possessive mentality. In the previous verse, he spoke about Tektva karma phala sangam, being free from the attachment to the fruits of the work. Or karmanyevadhikarasте ma phaleshu kadach. Like that. And then shariram kevala karma. So shariram kevala karma will be applicable to each, as per his capacity. Like a Brahmana can live in a thatched house and will be happy and satisfied. Whereas Kshatriya will require facilities, he will require a cot to sleep, and he will require his personal space and arrangements. So for everyone, the Shariram Kevalam Karma will be different. Because if that basic thing is not there, he just cannot chant his rounds. But for an elevated personality, whether he's in the hut or whether he's in the palace, he can be focused in his chanting. But as long as one is conditioned, the Shavarinam Kevalam Karma, whatever is necessary as his actual basic needs, that will vary. So this is the principle, okay? So one, even to understand what is my basic need, it requires a lot of, deliberation and contemplation. Okay? Prabhupada says, if this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the. Prabhupada says this natural principle.
This statement shall not give any output.
Alright, it is there. If it is natural, then okay, you have to separate that paragraph. Okay. Now, Prabhupada now will speak. He has given now the sutra. Please understand the solution what Prabhupada has given is a small sutra, but it is very profound. Now, how Atyahar leads to what? Lavya. According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolution scale do not eat or collect more than necessary because they are not greedy. They are not greedy. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. Now, Prabhupada gives the example. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. This is human being. According to scriptures, this collecting for more than necessary atyahar is prohibited. So you see, Prabhupada is giving a deep meaning atyahar here also. Again, it will come up more and more as we go to Anuvritti commentary. Prabhupada is saying, just because of this, now the entire world is suffering because of it. The entire world is suffering. Are we suffering now? About because of this atyahar? Tell me, which is the problem we are suffering now? Tell me. Let us see how much you are able to apply the principle what Prabhupada is teaching the purpose. What is the present crisis we are suffering now? In the world, entire world, what is the crisis we are going through?
Poverty, unemployment.
Oh, you have to live in this world to realize what is the problem we are suffering right now. Huh?
Inflation.
Inflation has been always there.
Okay. The others is taking too much and not ready to.
Presently, what is the crisis we are facing in the world? Yes, somebody said, why? Who said?
Gas and petrol.
Why? What is the reason? There's a war going on, right? Atyahar. See, somewhere some crisis is going on and the whole world is suffering. Whole world is suffering. So this is because of Atyahar. There is enough in this world for everyone's needs, but there is not even enough for even one man's. How much? One man. And this one man, you know who we are referring to right now with respect to this. We should not name everyone. There was one beautiful, humorous, you know, notice on a hotel. Because of this so-called person. Our cylinder prices have gone up, and we are sorry to tell that we have to charge the customers more. A very humorous way it was given. So this is how Atyahar is. You know. So during the Second World War, Prabhupada says in Calcutta, there was a trader who was trading in rice. You know, he became very rich because he was selling rice in the black market. And in his home, he had a deity whom he was worshipping. Do you know what was the deity's name? Mr. Hitler. Yeah, it's true. He was worshipping Hitler. Because of Hitler, World War happened, and because of that, I became rich. That's why. So the entire world suffers because this is how deep rooted is the problem of Atyar. Again, in the Anuvritti commentary, it will come more. Okay. Now, how Prayas and Atyahar together is taken up now in 8 to 12. Let us take up that. Now, as I mentioned, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a commentary on Deshamrit, which is called as the Piyush Varshini Vritti. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a commentary called as Anu Vritti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wrote 6 separate articles on these 6 items which are unfavorable for devotional service and 6 items which are favorable. At some point, after many times you study the Upadeshamrit, then with your permission of your spiritual masters, your Shiksha Gurus, one should study these articles. Because the profound meaning of each of these items is very, very important. Even if one item you come under the control of Atyahar, then your devotional service is what? Vinashyati. And even one favorable item you catch. And among the 6 favorable items, the most important is which one?
Sadhu.
Okay, interesting. True. But among the 6, which one is the most? No, we are speaking about the 6 favorable items. Utsaha, it is Utsaha. You can attain perfection. Prasidati, you will attain perfection. Utsaha is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Okay. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as I mentioned, text 3 it is enthusiasm purposes. Okay, is it clear? So, I'm just summarizing here the entire article of Prayas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Of course, we are not going into detail. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there are different kinds of prayas. The first one is Bhog prayas. We endeavor a lot for Bhog prayas, both gross and subtle. Then there is Jnana prayas. Then there is Karma prayas. Then there is Ashtanga Yoga prayas. And then there is what? Vairagya prayas. Especially conditioned souls, even in the realm of practice of devotional service, more fall prey to karma prayas. Too much of endeavor, even in spiritual life. And they are not exactly endeavor of core devotional activities, but devotional related activities, just karma prayas and bhoga prayas. And subtle among them is vairagya prayas. But real prayas we should do is what? Bhakti prayas. And bhakti prayas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says you need not endeavor a lot because bhakti is a natural function of the soul. Practice as much as is favorable for cultivating devotional service. Only one thing you have to do. And then give up pride. This is one thing you have to give up. Give up pride. What happened?
Bracket XBS.
Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hari Bhakti Suhodev or Hari Bhakti Vilas it is there. Both the places, Sanatana Goswami mentioned. Give up pride. Pratishta Asha. No, to give up that. Hmm. So only this has to be done, he says. So Prabhupada summarizes few things about prayers, so we will look into it. Collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayers or unnecessary endeavor. So why do we, have greed for, collecting so many things or endeavoring, collecting so many things? Because there is root causes. Okay. And to collect these things, you will have to do what? You will have to endeavor. So you can see how Atya directly leads to prayas. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully, even if he has some land and a welcome. See, Prabhupada is explaining something. Just by having a little land and calm, you can live. You need not over and very rare to find someone who is able to do this. Because somebody who can do this, he will be very easily successful in spiritual. There's one friend of mine, he is living in a holy place, little far away from the place. It's a very famous holy place, Melokote, South Melokote. Melokote is a very famous place where Ramacharya stayed. It's one of the Divya Desams, where there is the Narasimha temple there on the top of the hill. So he's just living 5 kilometers away from there, and he's just cultivating his land. And now, single-handedly, he's doing this farming. He's running a Gurukul. Every day he gives classes, morning and evening, and is cultivating villagers in 5, 6 villages. All that he's doing. And if you tell him to make prasadam for 100 devotees, he says, I'll do it, no problem. How he does it? And he has only, his sister to help. And there are few, farmers who are working in his farm. And he's running a Gurukul, he's running, preaching program in the villages single-handedly. Because he just has a farm and cows. Not few cows, he's got 20 cows. Everything is managing. Because he has a lot of time to chant Hare Krishna. So he can live like that purpose. There is no need for a man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood. For one can produce good grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. Purpose is giving a solution. All economic problems can be solved. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness or the understanding of God, one's relationship with Him, and the ultimate goal of life, the law of God. So there are three things Prabhupada is speaking here: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayoja. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man not caring for God realization utilizes intelligence for getting more than necessary and simply eat to satisfy the tongue. So here I'm just again pointing out Atyahar leads to Prayas and Prayas leads to lovely. Generally, the heart which doesn't have love, there's no greed for Krishna. That greed is transformed into what? Greed for material things. So, Laulyam can lead to what? Also, Atyahar. And Atyahar can directly also lead to what? Laulyam. Okay.
Prabhuji, I'm understanding that Lorium is the root cause of Patyaya and Pujans.
Atyahar is the root cause.
Because without greed, no one do Patyaya or Pujans.
Basically, you have to go by the flow. If you feel like that also, you have to still go by the flow. The root cause is atyahar. And why atyahar is happening, the greed is there. But why is that greed there? Now, simple. You want to endeavor for doing some activity and you get that activity. And then you develop more greed. Let me do, possess more. So the root is what? The root is what? Because you don't possess love for Krishna. Are you getting this point? The root is you don't possess love for Krishna. So that is the reason. Sanatan Goswami, what? He was having what? Chintamani. And where he had kept it? Garbage. And he was sitting and chanting. Would you ever do that? Think about it. Would you ever do that? If you have a few hundred crores in your bank balance, what would you think of doing? You would like to build a temple for Krishna, right? Yes or no? That will also come under Atyahar. It's a little difficult to digest, man. Did Sanatan Goswami build the temple here? Madan Mohan, who built the temple here? Huh? Krishna built it. Krishna had to make arrangement. When Sanatan Goswami, Krishna spoke, na, Arey, at least give me salt. Arey, today you are asking salt, tomorrow you'll ask for what? Sweets. Where I'll get? Make your own arrangement, he said. Krishna then, went as a Brahmana boy and that boat got stuck. And that merchant came and this Brahmana boy told him, go and pray to that sadhu. He's a great saint. So he went and prayed. Who directed that? Krishna directed. And then, after selling his goods, he came and gave him. And then he only built the temple. Sanatana was not involved in it. So, like that, the root is what? In the heart. Because there is no love for Krishna. That's why Atyahar comes. Atyahar leads to Laulya. And that Laulya, when the greed is there, again to possess more, that is also because of what? Atyahar. And then you want to possess still more. Ye dil mange more. You know that, no? So like that it is. Is it okay? Is it okay? No?
And you are setting it takes time.
Yes, yes, no.
Yeah, I have one question with this. Sorry to ask, but I can't resonate with this point. It's not practical in this life. As you can see, if I'm a Grinch, and if I have even a one children in Gurukul, they are charging 6 lakh rupees. So how can I?
I spoke already about it. You were there or no? Shariram Kevalam Karta. You're not there, right? Yeah. So I spoke about, see, as per your status, whatever is Shariram Kevalam Karma for one person cannot be the same for others. Whatever Shariram means this body.